There are some things that I wish I knew when I first started wholesaling. And today I'm going to give you my top 5 tips on the things that you should do whenever you're getting started. Hit the like button and let's get into it. The very first thing that I wish I knew, and my first tip to you, is make sure you're going in with the mindset that this is a numbers game. You can't go in and think that you're gonna dial 20 sellers and you're gonna close a deal out of those 20 sellers that you dial. Some of those sellers gonna tell you, I'm not interested. Some of those sellers gonna say, hey, you have the wrong number. Some of those sellers are gonna say, don't ever call me again. You gotta think about that. You gotta take that into consideration. So every contact that you make is not going to be a lead. You may make 500 calls and it may take you 500 calls to generate one lead. You do the math on how much it would take for you to actually close a deal. It's going to take a lot of calls to get that done. And I know you probably look at other wholesalers in your market or in virtual markets that are bigger than you, and they're closing 5 to 10 deals every single month. But guess what? Like I said, it's just completely a numbers game. That particular wholesaler may have 2 cold callers. They may have 2 people sending text messages. They may be sending PPC. They may be doing more marketing and have employees in place that can help them generate more leads on a daily. You, as a one-person operation, you got to think of it like this. For example, let's say you have a goal set to generate 1 to 3 leads every single day. If they have 2 cold callers, guess what? They have that same expectation for each one of their cold callers. So they may be able to generate 6 leads in one day to your 3. So of course, they're going to close more deals than you because they have more people that are actively on the phone. And like I said before, it's just a numbers game. Now, don't get discouraged by that. Just know you got to start somewhere. If you have that goal set of generating 1 to 3 leads a day, and you know it takes you 50 leads to close a deal, you just got to do the math. If it's 31 days in a month, all you got to do is multiply that times 3 if you hit that 3 leads per day mark. And that should get you your first deal within that first month. And also keep in mind as well, too, that you do have to have the right list put together as well in order to generate leads. You don't want to just pull a hot equity list as a one-person operation and expect to be generating 1 to 3 leads a day, because there may not be as much motivation on that particular list compared to a pre-foreclosure list or a tax delinquent list, absentee owner list. So definitely keep that in mind as well too. Now, if you enjoyed the video so far, please just hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell, because that's going to send positive signals to YouTube and they'll push this video out to a larger audience and we can continue to grow here on the channel. So just take 1 second to do that for me and let's get back into it. The second tip that I wish that I knew, and the second tip that I'm going to give to you, is patience and consistency is key. Listen, if you're not patient with yourself throughout this process and you're not consistent, I'm gonna tell you now, you're not gonna be successful in this business, because this is not something where you can get rich overnight or you can make a whole bunch of money overnight. This is a process where you're filling up a pipeline, you're talking to sellers on a daily, you're building relationships with these sellers to where you can eventually solve problems down the line. Now, you do have situations where you have unicorn deals where you may talk to the third seller and the seller is ready to sell on the spot. You contact the seller, you gather all the necessary information that's needed to make an educated offer, and then the next thing you know, you have the property under contract in 2 to 3 days. That happens every once in a while. But like I said earlier, you should definitely set goals on how many deals you want to close per month, how many leads you want to generate every single day, and you need to stick with that no matter what. Now, like I said, it may take 50 leads to 100 leads for you to close a deal. As long as you remain consistent throughout that whole process, if you generate 100 leads, guess what? You have 100 leads that you're gonna follow up with from here until you're able to close those 100 leads. And if I show you some of the leads that I have now that I didn't follow up with from 2021, more than half of those sellers eventually sold their property in 2021 or 2022. But guess what? I didn't have my follow-up system dialed in, so I lost out on those leads. And from that point on, I started being consistent, because I know what consistency and being patient with the wholesale process could actually do for me and my business. The third tip that I have for you is using tools will definitely get you in front of sellers way quicker than someone that's not using tools. Like, for example, let's say that I'm calling sellers but I'm only dialing them one by one using my cell phone, and I gotta individually put each phone number in. Now, let's say the more efficient person over here has a multi-line dialer that can dial up to 10 lines at once, such as call tools. Any tool that I mentioned will definitely be linked below, so feel free to check it out. Now, with call tools, you can set it to where you can dial 2 or 3 sellers at once. And guess what? You don't even have to dial them individually one by one. The system is actually doing it for you. So if you got a person dialing 3 potential leads at once compared to 1, who you think is going to generate a lead quicker dialing the same list? Of course, the person with the multi-line dialer will. The same thing with text messages. If you use a text message platform such as REI Reply, which is linked below as well too, if you have one person sending individual text messages and then you have the next person using a text blasting service, and make sure it's legal in your state to actually do this, and they send in 3 text messages to 3 different sellers every 1 minute, who you think is going to generate more leads? Of course, the person that is sending text messages more efficiently is the person that's going to generate more leads. So you just got to keep those type of things in mind, and even when it come down to you going to the courthouse and getting data, best believe when you go to the courthouse, you're getting the most recent data that you can possibly get, such as pre-foreclosures, divorce lists, finding tired landlords. But what if you got somebody that can go pull a list that may not be as updated from a website such as PropStream? Guess what? They can be in the market in almost 5 minutes. It's just so many ways with these tools that they currently have that can have you in markets and talking to sellers in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes if you know what you're doing when you're first starting out. So definitely keep those things in mind. Feel free to check out Call Tools, REI Reply, PropStream, and also skip tracing as well. You can check out back skip tracing as well too, using my link below. And I'm pretty sure if you're doing it correctly, it will definitely speed up your process of getting your first deal or generating leads daily. Now, the 4th tip is one of the biggest tips that I'm going to give to you. Do not overcomplicate the process. I made the process of wholesaling so hard when it is such a simple business. Listen to this process. You're going to build a list. You're going to skip trace that list. Once you skip trace that list, you're going to have phone numbers and you're going to have emails. Now, from that point on, you need to figure out how you're going to get in front of these sellers. Like I mentioned in step 3, you need to use tools. Whenever you have the phone numbers and the names and addresses, you can import it into REI Reply. You can send PPC, you can send direct mail, you can send emails if you have emails, but you just have to generate leads. You got to figure out of those phone numbers if you're talking to the right seller, the wrong seller, you're talking to a relative. You just have to figure that out. Once you figure that out and you are in front of the correct seller, you need to gather all the necessary information on the property condition so you can make an educated offer to the seller. The seller is either going to accept your offer or they're not going to accept your offer. If they don't accept your offer, of course, you put them into a follow-up. If they do accept your offer, you have an A/B agreement. With the A/B agreement, you put the property under contract for less than what the property is actually worth. And then at that point, it's time to find cash buyers. You send your A/B agreement over to your real estate attorney. You start searching for cash buyers. And best believe if you have a deal, the buyers are going to buy. So let's say you have a property under contract for $100,000, but you find a buyer that's willing to buy the property at $110,000. What you need to do is you need to have a BC agreement in place. You need to get your buyer to sign the BC agreement. Then you send that BC agreement over to your title company or attorney office. From there, you set your closing date, and on that closing date, you make $10,000. The process is just that simple. Now, if you have a situation where the seller doesn't want to sell and you need to put them into a follow-up, only thing you need to do is make sure you set a reminder for yourself to when the seller may want to sell, if they didn't agree to your offer or if they say that they want to sell 2-3 months down the line. And you want to make sure that you're constantly on the seller's mind whenever they get to the point where they want to sell. So you need to call them once every 2 weeks or once a month if it's way down the line that they want to sell. And you just need to continue to contact them until that day comes. The form of contact is completely up to you. It depends on what the seller prefers. They may want you to leave a voicemail. They may want you to send text messages. They may want you to send ringless voicemails, but you're just following up with them until they are ready. That's how you fill your pipeline, and that's how you get to your first, second deal, and that's how you get to multiple deals every single month. The process is just that simple. And I overcomplicate the process for about a year or two until the process was simplified and broken down to me, and I stopped overthinking the process. Now, if you want a video on how I follow up with my sellers, please feel free to check it out here. And let's get into this last tip, which is very, very crucial. The last and very, very important tip will make or break your wholesaling business is please follow up with your sellers. I know we just talked about it, but this had to be the last and final tip because 70 to 80% of your deals will come from follow-up. When I first got started, I would generate leads. I would generate multiple leads every single day. But guess what? If they didn't want to sell right then and there, I didn't have a follow-up campaign set up for them. I would just continue to call every single day and hope that I ran into a unicorn deal, which I didn't even know that those were just rare deals. If you start tomorrow, please make sure that you have a free Podio set up so that you can import those leads into your Podio, even if you don't have it automated. I have my Podio automated currently, so whenever I do import a lead, I throw them into a lead follow-up campaign and they automatically follow up. And throughout those automated campaigns, I may send a manual message or I may make a manual call to each seller just to let them know, hey, this is actually a person reaching out to them. Now, if you don't do this, I'm telling you right now, this is where you're wasting most of your money. If you see that you're generating leads and they're not willing to sell to you right then and there, and then you go back months later and you see that they sold, you better believe your follow-up is not in place. And like I said, I did it a while back where I checked and saw that half of the sellers that were in my Podio a few years ago, they sold their property. But that was my last and final tip. Please do that. That's what 70 to 80% of your deals are going to come from. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.